Good morning, students, and today once again I'm here with you to talk about this poem I Remember by Thomas Hood. This is in the ICSE syllabus of the 9th standard, right? Let's go deep into this poem immediately, right? What is the theme of the poem, or what does this poem actually talk about? So the poem actually talks about childhood and nostalgia. Nostalgia basically means when you're thinking about the past and you feel sad, you're missing it. Okay, so he's talking about childhood and nostalgia. The second theme is innocence or simplicity and innocence, and the third is ignorance. And he looks at all these three themes in a very positive manner, where he's always looking at childhood as something that was happy and maybe something that has been taken away from him, and he does not actually want to leave that. The main points or the signpost which I call are: the poet is thinking, reminiscence means he's thinking about his childhood days and he's contrasting it with his present time. Those days were so wonderful, and what is his condition now? He remembers his house in which he grew. He wishes he never woke up from childhood. He would always remain a child. And then he talks about the sun entering into his room. And then he remembers all the beautiful flowers that were there, and he could actually see them and remember them. He remembers the time his brother planted a tree, the laburnum, and then he thinks about the time when he was swinging, he remembers that also. And he says that now if he goes into a swimming pool, it is of no use. He can go into a swimming pool right now, but the joy that he had then cannot be equaled. He remembers how he foolishly thought that the trees could touch the sky, and as an adult he feels he's too far away. And of course, he has lost his ignorance as well as his innocence, and he longs for it. It's one poem that remains with people when they understand that childhood is so precious. I begin this poem, all right? The poem begins with, I remember, the house where I was born, the little window where the sun came peeping in at morn. He never came a wink too soon, nor brought too long a day, but now I often wish the night had bore my breath away. We begin with I remember. Now this word I remember, both these phrases I remember will be repeated. And that is why we should remember that he is thinking about it a lot. And that's where the theme of nostalgia comes in. When he says, I remember, again, it is in the autobiographical element. That means he's talking about himself. And that is why the poem is in the autobiographical element. The house where I was born, he says, I remember, the house where I was born, the little window where the sun came peeping in at morn. And he remembers this window where the sun would come peeping at morn. Morn means early in the morning. He never came a wink too soon, and the sun would never be too early. That means the sun would never disturb his sleep or wake him up too early. It also shows that the sun was punctual. So it talks about punctuality. Maybe the child likes punctuality. The poet likes punctuality when he was a child. Nor brought too long a day, neither was the day so long that it would get boring. Correct? So when we're talking about the sun coming up neither too early and setting neither too late, it doesn't talk about time frame. It's more about how he adjusted to the day and how he liked the day. But now I often wish the night had bore my breath away. He says, but now it's a very sad thing that he says. He says, I wish the night had taken my breath away. That means I had died at night. I was no longer alive. So this is the way he thinks about his childhood. His childhood was so wonderful that he feels that had life stopped then, he would have a wonderful life. But because it proceeded and he became an adult, life has become boring, life has become stressful, life has become all the things that he doesn't want. We go to the next paragraph. He says, I remember, I remember. What does he remember? The roses red and white. So it shows that the poet is a lover of nature. He understands flowers and he loves them because there's such an array of flowers that he's spoken about. Roses, which are red color and white. You can see the rose over there. I've placed it. The violet, got it? I've put the violet right down. Yeah, it's purple in color. So he says the violet and the lily cups. The lily cups are white. Over here you can have a look at them. These flowers made of light. He says the flowers were so beautiful that I thought the construction of the flower, the makeup of the flower was from light. Got it? The substance by which the flower was made is light. That means they were so beautiful. The lilacs were the robin built, and then he talks about the lilacs. Lilacs are also flowers. The lilacs were the robin built. The robin, of course, is a bird, right? So the robin built its nest over there. And where my brother sat, he says, and he also remembers the place where his brother, he planted a laburnum. The laburnum is a tree, you can have a look at it, with yellow flowers. And the tree is living yet. And he says the tree has not died. The tree is living. And there has to be a contrast. There's some kind of contrast. He does not want to live, but he's happy that the tree his brother planted is still living. So this is, I think, something very nice and beautiful. And then he says, I remember where I used to swing. You know, it's a swing. All of us know what a swing is. And through the air must rush as fresh. And then he would go through the air. He remembers the experience, got it? The experience of him swinging on a swing and moving in the air. Two swallows on the wing, got it? And he compares himself like the swallows on their wings, that the swallows are flying, right? You can see the swallow over here. And he says, just like the swallows were enjoying freedom, he seemed to have enjoyed the freedom. He felt like a bird. My spirit flew in feathers then. He says, like the swallow, even my spirit was flying. My spirit had feathers. That is so heavy now. And then the contrast. The spirit was flying, but today his spirit is so heavy. That means he's very sad, he's depressed. The summer pools could hardly cool. And when he goes to a summer pool to have a swim, he says, even they cannot cool the fever on my brow. The fever is the tension, the stress that he has in his head. Brow is in his head. So he says, my childhood was so wonderful that I felt like a bird flying. And today, my adulthood is so heavy that I feel like a person who is bowed down. And I just cannot move, right? Even though I try to cool myself in a swimming pool, even that does not take away the heat, the stress that is in my brain. And then he goes, he says, I remember the fir tree dark and high. So from his garden to the birds, now he comes to the trees and he says the trees were so lovely and huge, dark and high. Dark, basically he wants to talk about they were full of foliage. Foliage is again leaves. There was full of leaves. It shows about, it talks about verdure or strength of a tree. That it was dark. Dark means a lot of leaves, and it was a tall tree. So he was small. That is why the tree was very large for him. I used to think they're slender tops. You see, as the fir tree grows up, the structure becomes slender. It becomes thin, right? So he says, I used to think the slender top were close against the sky. He says, we're almost touching the heaven, touching the sky. It was childish ignorance. He says it was the ignorance maybe you can call it foolishness, but basically he's saying ignorance is something he didn't know. But now 'tis little joy. He says, again he brings the contrast. He says, but now it is little joy to know I'm farther off from heaven than when I was a boy. And he says, today I find that then I thought that the tree could reach the sky, but today I feel, although I've grown, I'm even farther off from heaven. Heaven over here is pure joy. Got it? The pure, he said, I'm very far from joy than when I was a boy. And therefore he wishes that he would be a boy. Got it? Remember to be a boy. Now I'm just going to take you through the devices that we used. We call them figures of speech and devices. Don't learn too many of them. They're just some basic ones that you need to learn. Got it? And the basic ones that you need to learn, number one is alliteration. That means the same word, the sentence has been used together. Like I remember. The red roses, red, so rose and red. So this is how you have two R's together. Then the spirit flew in feathers, F and F together. You have imagery. Imagery again creates, image of somebody. You can see the five senses of yours, right? What you see, what you can feel, etc. So the examples are the house where I was born, the fir tree dark and high. You have a metaphor. A metaphor again is when you compare two things, imply them completely, right? And over here is his colorful childhood, which he talks about as a metaphor. A refrain is again a sentence which is repeated many times. So I remember is the refrain. And I told you about personification is the sun came peeping in at morn. So the sun came peeping in at morn, basically early in the morning, the sun would come and peep. Got it? So the sun cannot peep. A human being, a person can peep, a human being can peep, and therefore it is a personification. Great. I'm just rushing through it this time, but I hope that you'll be able to enjoy the session once again. Okay, so God bless you and have a nice day. In case there's any questions, please do write to me. I'm leaving you with my email ID and my phone number in case you want to get in touch with me. And then, of course, a big thank you to all of you. God bless you. Have a nice day.